Antoine with another episode of Out Now, where we encourage young athletes to achieve their very best outside of the game. Like every show, we're blessed to have another awesome guest. And y'all know how I do. I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself.
TJ Hill, athletic director at Eastside High School. Also, have a former alum, Mr. Biggs. He's the alumni of Eastside High School as well. Everyone knows us from the great Lean on Me. God bless the death of Joe Clark, from that performed by the great actor Morgan Freeman.
Cool, man. Well, good to have you on, TJ, man. It's a blessing, man. Just to have again another brother from back home, from East Side. You know, we shared this, we bled the same orange and blue, man, in high school. And so I appreciate you having on. TJ has gone on to do a bunch of awesome things, and every show we want to, just provide awesome people who have gone on to do awesome things, not only in the sport but outside of the game, and still having an impact on a lot of lives. So we're gonna get right into it. You ready to get into the questions, TJ?
Nah, most definitely.
All right. So, where you originally from, born and raised?
Born and raised here in Patterson, New Jersey. Yep, born
Cool.
and raised in Patterson, New Jersey.
Cool. So, I know TJ wasn't just a one sport star, man. TJ, when did you first get into sports, man?
All right, so my history of sports, it comes at 6 years old. Played basketball for my uncles, Willie Griffin, Larry Gilbert. At that time, it was called Walter Hill. My late uncle, Walter Hill, he had he had a baseball team, he had a basketball team, but I played on the basketball team at 6 years old. I next started 7 years old for Edmonds Blue Demons. Coach Pat Kelly, Lou Mathis, Keith Bryan and them guys. And then actually football was actually my last sport. I started that at 10 years old for Pepsi Steelers. During the time when you guys were playing, it was Alpha Steelers. And that was that was ran by the great Michael Jackson Sr. Obviously, you guys probably know his son, Mike Jackson, political Mike Jackson. Which was a great quarterback, and then also the standout athlete Stanley Jackson that played in at Ohio State and passed the Catholic. So yeah,
Cool.
big ups to all of them guys to help me get to where I'm at now today.
Cool. And we, man, and those, I know people outside of North Carolina, outside of New Jersey, sorry, may not know some of the greatness that's come out of Patterson, but we had it. I mean, TJ just named, the Jackson family. We were blessed to have Stanley on last season. Prior to this episode, we just interviewed the Coppin State Hall of Fame, Danny Singletary. So Diamond D. So, blessed. This season is already blessed. We're 4 shows in, and we already have had, great love from back home in Jersey. So, yes, it's a lot of great talent. And the list goes on from Patterson. But what sport was in your youth? What sport was your favorite sport, man?
It's funny you asked that because I I made a living playing football, but my favorite sport growing up was basketball. I was very tuned into basketball, and then I kind of saw the light the end of my junior year, going into my senior year, where I was the recruitment process started to come in. Obviously I was playing basketball for the late Henry Baker here at Eastside. Played football under Coach Donald Davis and Barry Rosser. Did play baseball from under Benji Wembley as well. But I would never recall, this was summer 1997. My brother gave me a call. He called me, asked me. I don't know where he was at, but he called me like, "What's up? What you doing?" This, that, there. So I'm packing my stuff and getting ready for basketball camp. And I don't know if I think I was getting ready for Eastern Invitational, a 5-star basketball camp at that time. And then he actually made a comment like, "Yeah, you're pretty good. You all county, all area, things of that nature." He was like, "But how many 5'9" point guards in the NBA?" Once he said that, and that was the summer going into the end of my junior year, going into my senior year. And that's when it clicked and where I said, you know what, let me start gearing my let me just start focusing a little more on football opposed to basketball. And like obviously I still play basketball and baseball, but at that time, that's when I tuned in, like, you know what, let me start looking to football a little more seriously. I had, obviously I was getting recruited for both sports, but the schools I was getting recruited for football, where you talk about Division I schools and basketball was what Division IIIs and like low tier, not saying low tier, but Division II schools. Like I said, I'm
Gotcha.
5'8" 3 and quarter, 5'9". So at the end of the day, if I'm trying to pursue a professional career or something, I gotta weigh my odds,
Right. All right.
This was never my plan. It just so happened that I just took advantage of my opportunity. That's all.
Got you. Got you. Got you. And so many young people need to, really have their eyes open. Some people are able to kind of fight through what their goals are, but you did a great job of being able to kind of lay the map on the table, lay the blueprint out, and realize what worked best for you. And you went on to have a very successful career. So it definitely worked for you. Do you have any advice for the young person that kind of, crosses that same um path that you've kind of crossed, where having these different options, they may be leaning more to one sport, have more love for one sport, but at the end of the day, statistics show that they may have a better opportunity in another area. Do you have any advice for that young athlete?
Yeah, most definitely. That's why I'm in the position I'm at now. Today, each one teach one. So I just try to learn from my experiences. And just pass the torch. That was a torch that was given for me from like all the greats that I told you that led me to where I'm at today, and trying to pass them to the young student athletes. Um, that's behind me now. But one thing I would say is you have to have a plan. And many people have in life, they have a long-term plan, but they don't never talk about the short-term plan. You can't get to a long-term plan unless you have a short-term plan. Like I mentioned, alluded earlier, that it was never my goal to play any professional sport. My goal was I was taking advantage of the opportunity that I had through sports to get a free education. I know how much, universities, institutions cost. So I want to take a burden off my parents where, I seen how hard my parents worked just to try to get us, obviously we went to public schools, but I just saw the grind that they went through. So if I could take any of, that less stress or them, anything off of their hands, at that time, that was my goal, and I was very fortunate, not just for myself, my brother was very fortunate too. He received a full athletic football scholarship to Morgan State University. And, I had several schools that offered me a free education. So that was my niche. Coming out of school, if you ask me, I wanted to be an agriculturist and a radiologist. And it's one of the things. But one thing about me when it comes to anything I set my goals to, I'm all in. So I'm not just gonna take a football athletic scholarship and just say, obviously, I'm here for education. I'm gonna work hard at football as well. So my thing was as hard as I work and I put my effort in, I'm gonna take advantage of the opportunity. And that's what I did. And so my whole thing is my advice to any young athlete out there or any student, have a plan, have a vision, but also have a plan on how you're gonna get there. And then a lot of people say have a backup plan, this, that, and the third. I was fortunate. Some people may not have a choice to have a backup plan. I mean, I was fortunate because obviously, I was getting a free education to play football. So I kind of like, my gear was obviously I had the education, but I also had the athletics. With that being said, but I also had the vision of what I wanted to do. So a lot of times at 17, 18 years old, you ask a student athlete what they want to do, all they gonna think about sports. You know what I mean? So actually my athletic background at that time was probably secondary. My primary goal was, like I said, to be the agriculturalist or radiologist. I just actually took advantage of my opportunities when I was there. So always have not just have a vision, but always have a plan to where you're gonna go, because obviously we always have a long-term goal, but no one talks about the short-term goal. You know what I mean? You can't get to Saturday, and so you can't get to weekends without getting the Monday through Friday. So that's my pitch to the young ones that's come behind me now, and tell them that, you know, do what seek out what you feel, that find that creative niche for you. And then once you find that creative niche, just find out how you want to get there. And then there's so many people out there, whether they pursue the same dream as you have, or if they not, you need to have a mentor. You know what I mean? You can't get anywhere in life, I feel like, without either having faith in someone higher than yourself and having some type of guidance higher than yourself. Everybody wants to do things on their own, but you need some type of guidance and some type of knowledge and wisdom of those that came before you, to show you some type of some type of structure and some type of light. And like I said, I was very fortunate to have so many people. I just named probably 5% of the people of just some of my coaches, but I had so many other people that came before me that played a pivotal role in my life to get to where I'm at now, that still play a pivotal role in my life, so.
Wow. And I think it's so awesome you touching that, because as I go back, two episodes prior to yours, we were blessed to interview the NBA great Kenny Anderson. And Kenny Anderson talked about listening, like being able to listen. And he said people have a hard time accepting it on the Georgia Tech end, that he always tell people his best team he was on was Bishop Arch Malloy, his high school team.
Yeah.
But it was what he was able to learn, and that's who made him who he became. And
Right.
so you kind of touched on similar things, like our young people having the ability to listen and receive. I have young kids. I have kids in their 20s, and so often our young people today sometimes feel like I got the answer, and they're not always willing to receive from those who've come before them. So I think you gave some great advice in that segment right there, and just telling young people being able to have mentors and people that you receive from will oftentimes keep you out of a lot of trouble and making bad decisions. Some things you'll have to learn on your own, but you have to be willing to receive from those that's come ahead of you.
Most definitely, most definitely, most definitely.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be able to, you got to take in mind too and be conscious of, the time frame too. And obviously, it's a different generation too. Generation you and I grew up in, where the coaches that we had, there's certain things that that could be said and done that you probably can't do nowadays. So a lot of things that you gotta kind of not reinvent the wheel, but you have to adjust. So it's a lot of time, and with this generation, I always use this equivalent way of saying that this generation, everything is with us, everything was earned. They want everything given. So because they want everything given, they don't, and we're so accustomed to earning everything that we had to endure to gain. They want everything given, given, given. It's one of them things where it's one of you got to push and pull. So you know what I'm saying, you got to know the circumstances. We are living in a different generation. So and it's just one of the things where and that's where you become a not a good coach, a great coach and a great mentor, when you actually know how to adjust to the people that you're dealing with. I tell people all the time where it's easy, and like I said, I played on professional level for 12 years. I've seen coaches where you'll get a new coordinator or a new position coach where they would get someone, once they get the job, they'll actually get players in to fit their scheme.
Gotcha.
But you may have an all-pro defensive back that's a shutdown corner. Now, he might just probably play man because he's not great at reading coverages, but you may come in and your philosophy is zone coverage, match coverage, 2-to-1 coverage, this thing and that. But if you got an all-pro, you got to adjust to his strengths, you know what I mean, and minimize his weaknesses. To me, that's what makes a great coach, a great mentor. And that all goes to say, well, you have to adjust to your personnel. The same way when it comes to being in the classroom. Every coach, every kid got different learning styles. You got to do the exact same thing when you teach. So, and then in this generation, I feel like there's a lot of adjustment that you have to have from what you and I endure. I mean, we that hard nose, tough nose, speak any type of way where our parents give permission to do what they needed to do. Like I said, that era is,
don't quite work today.
That don't quite work. You might find yourself with, you might, some people may be at your door saying, look, come talk to me,
Right.
It's all about adjusting, and finding that lane But it also not just working from the adults and the mentors, but the kids as well. You know what I mean? Once you make them comfortable and they engage with you, they'll gravitate to you, but you have to meet them halfway too, though. You have to meet them halfway.
Good. That's good. You made me think of an interview I heard with Mike Tomlin from the Steelers, and he talked about how certain coaches run from certain players, but he talked about that's because coaches don't want to do their job to coach them. And so you touched on it from a leadership standpoint. The great coaches are those that are willing to make that adjustment for the person that they're dealing with, because you have a team of players, everybody's going to be different. And you're going to have to make some adjustments to everybody. And so that goes not only on the pro level, but from the middle school to the high school level. A great coach and a leader is somebody that's willing to make that adjustment.
Most definitely. Especially when you use, well, I mean, I'm a Chief fan, but you can use the Giants, for example, when Tom Coughlin came in. Tom Cochran, he wasn't well like militant, very hard nosed, and Mike and them guys. I'm talking about Strahan guys. Hey man, this is a new era.
All right.
Once he made that adjustment, they met halfway. Semi militant, semi casual, cool. Come like they did what? They won the championship.
Right.
David Slade Goliath, and you know what I mean
Right.
when they beat
Yeah.
the Patriots. So it's one of them things where
Yeah.
I mean it could be done. It could be done, but it takes it takes the best of them to do it though.
That's good. That's good. And so we're gonna get through the high school career on to college and pros. But as you were talking, you sparked something else in me just in regards to it was a recent conversation I was having. And I'm not gonna say the person because I didn't get their permission, but we were talking about the I think it's an opinion of people, but something that's often talked about sports being not who you are, but what you do. Versus somebody really gave me another perspective where they was talking to somebody that was kind of encouraging them to remind them, like, hey, listen, you played your whole life. So a part of that is who you are. I just want to ask you, man, what's your opinion? I think it's something that's subjective and it's that person's opinion. I don't think there's a right and a wrong, but I hear you, and it sounds like you had a plan outside of sports, but was blessed to play at a high level.
Right.
So when you talk to young people, do you feel like sports is who they are, or is it just what they do? What's your opinion?
No, it's definitely what they do. I'm a living testament to that. If you ask me, I don't want to see another football field. Or I enjoy being in the locker room. That's what I miss. I miss being around the guys, being around the locker room, things of that nature. But as far as going to war or putting no pads on the bacon, it's that third. I could watch and enjoy it. But it's it's definitely. Now, it doesn't define you. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a part of you.
Right.
And like people that don't know you, obviously, that's how, they're gonna view you, that's how they're gonna observe you, that's how they're gonna evaluate you, that's how they're gonna analyze you. But I mean, cause that's all they know. But once
Right.
you bring them into your world and then they actually get the chance to meet you, but that's just like anyone, right? Right now, we all got a cover on because all you know is, Antoine Biggs from Out and Up, or all you know
Right.
is until you ask somebody 30 years, all they know is Lil Biggs that plays center for Eastside High School, So for all they gonna go off for what they know until they actually if you actually have a conversation with them, or if they do some research on you and you actually welcome them into you, or welcome to, and you start speaking to them, then they go, oh, this brother is more than this. This young lady is more than that. But for me, now I will say I'm well more rounded. It definitely doesn't define me because I'm so many more things than
Mhm.
the football player TJ Hill. That's honestly, that's probably what 25% of it. It's not even half,
Right.
because a lot of things that I still did things that I have done while I was playing, I still was that other person doing other things, going out to the community, going to, the hospital, going to talking to the kids, doing mentor programs. I'm talking about not here. I'm talking about the places where I was at, going to
Gotcha.
the children's hospitals, things of that nature. And you don't have to be an athlete to do that. At
Gotcha.
that
That's
time,
good.
all I did was I used that cover of me being an athlete, to reach out to those people because that's what they know. But once I went to those hospitals, once I went to those schools, once I went to those, those conferences, even sometimes going to, like, not to get religious, going to some kingdom halls and stuff at places where I was at, going to some of the churches where I was at. Once they got to know me, it went from TJ Hill, the football athlete, to TJ Hill, the person. Back to the
That's good.
roots of Eastside High School, back to the roots of Patterson, New Jersey. So they got to know me. Okay, oh wow. And then I started to build a friendship. Then I started going out to eat with some of these people that there. Now it's not even about football anymore. It's about me as a human being, you know. So I mean, that's my take on that.
That's good. That's good. So we're gonna wrap up time at Eastside, and as you go through school, you continue to play all three sports throughout your 4 years.
In high school, yes, yes. In high
Okay.
school, yes. Oh, yep. And before I said, since we're done talking about Eastside, I have to congratulate you on being one of the top 100 football players to come out of Eastside High School. We announced the top 100 at the 100th Thanksgiving game this past year, and on Thanksgiving in 2024. I don't know if anybody mentioned that to you. But congrats to you. I have your top 100 gift here. So whenever I can even mail it out to you, or sometimes whoever comes down, and I'll definitely, or you come back here, we got that gift for you, brother.
Man, I greatly appreciate it, man. Definitely wanted to touch on that, man. Definitely was honored. It's a great feeling, for most people to be recognized and know that people saw something in you. I always tell people, and it's kind of my speech as I talk to kids about defying the odds. TJ didn't think about playing pros, but went on to play pro. I just started high school football just to have something to do and played my freshman year, first year ever playing. Sophomore year, Victor Santiago, the center before me, was supposed to play for 3 years, got hurt in upstate New York. And Coach D said it. And the little write up for the counties, Coach D said, like, the other coaches was like, nah, he can't play. And Coach D was like, nah, we're going to put him at center. He put me at center my sophomore year, and I never gave it back. Vic was blessed that Vic was so awesome of a player. He moved to the guard position, and I was blessed to play the next 3 years. And just to leave school and then have Eastside, TJ, and the staff recognize me this past year, man. I appreciate you, man. It was an honor, man. It was an honor being recognized. Thank you. And so, what were some of your highlights in your 4 years in the three sports? Like, what were some of your highlights, some of the things you were able to accomplish in those 3 years in the sports, and some of the accolades that you received in those 3 years? I mean, in the 4 years in the three sports that you were able to play.
In high school?
Yes, in high school.
High school. We start off in baseball. I was more of a utility player. Coach Wembley used me. I played short, third. My senior year, I played first base. So
right.
I can play any position. I was one of them players that wherever they need me. So I was versatile when it came to baseball. Even playing softball to this day, I was very versatile. But my accolades came in basketball and football. I was in basketball, I was all county 2 years in a row. I was all area, I was all league. Football, same, all area, all county, blue chip, preseason, blue chip. Some of the accolades that was out there. At that time, we was almost like triple threat. Sean Seabrooks, David Thompson, and myself. The year before,
right.
we was fortunate to have my junior year. We was fortunate to have Kenny Thomas on that team as well. So
right.
we had astronomical talent here at Eastside. We all went to play at Division I schools. Tennessee, Ohio State, Northeastern, UMass. Patrick Thompson came in the year after this. Went to University of Indiana. So with that being said, I was very fortunate to play with those guys. Obviously, playing with those guys, it pushed me a little more because, with the success they were having, anytime you can have players like for you graduated with the great Roger Alexander.
Yes.
Parade All-America, where he was ranked, number 1 and number 2 in the country at that time. So
Correct.
having that type of talent on your team, all it does, it just not just motivates you, but it puts you on another level. Like, I have to get to where they at. I got to get to this level, or at least be on the same spectrum, So those are my accolades. I had a few accolades in basketball and football, and obviously I was able to see that to I'm saying a scholarship to numerous schools, but I decided to go to Northeastern University. But I decided to go to Northeastern not just for football. I actually picked Northeastern out of the, quite a few schools that I was offered by, because they have a program called Co-op, which is cooperative education. And at the time, I don't think it's that time, I think still to this day, they had the #1 cooperative education program on the Northeast. The only other program there's other schools that had the program, but at that time, like, the top programs were Northeastern and Drexel in Pennsylvania. And cooperative education is similar to when I explain it. So, in layman terms, I try to explain to people so they have understanding of what cooperative education is. It's similar to an internship, but it has some differences. It has some similarities and differences. What cooperative education is, for instance, let's say you majored in communication, and while you're on co-op, your co-op advisor will, or yourself, you will actually reach out to different companies within your communication field. And maybe you may work for, 105.1, a Breakfast Club, for 3 to 6 months, or you may work for, a production, a TV production, ABC News, this, that, and third. And for everyone else may see that as an internship, but cooperative education is similar because you're still working there, but you're also getting paid. So it's actually like you actually have a job while you're in school. So you're working and you're getting credit and you're getting experience. So opposed to when an internship is just more of an experience, you know. So that's why at the time Northeastern was a 5-year school because they had the co-op education program, and you can do your co-op anywhere. It don't have to be in state. It don't have to be. It can be out of state, be out of country. I did my co-op, and although my school's in Massachusetts, I did my co-op in New Jersey. I did each one of my co-ops in New Jersey. Except one. Except one, I actually stayed. I stayed in Massachusetts. But with the co-op, I was only to do it in the wintertime because that's the only time our coaches actually let us leave because obviously I had to be there. Fall, you had to be there because during the season. Spring, you got to be there for spring ball. Winter, you had to be there for winter workouts. But if you had a good relationship with the coaches and they know you're going to work out, when I was here, I was working out Parisi things. And then, like I said, I was a workoutaholic. So they didn't mind me going away for 3 months because they know when I came back, I was going to be in shape. You know, certain ones that, if they was on a weight program or if they were, one of those that come back out of shape, then they wouldn't let it fly. They had to do their co-op somewhere locally, But I know,
Got you.
but if this is for athletes now, if you're a regular student, I know people that did co-ops in different countries. They'd be gone for 6 months in Turkey. They'd be gone in in Jordan, depending on their major, So that was the beauty of the co-op program. And that's kind of what sold me when I was getting recruited, when they was breaking down the co-op program. It was like, oh, you can work and still be in school. You can go home. I'm like, so at that time, I'm like, what you mean I can actually go home and still be in school? I'm like, no, I mean, that's a withdrawal. They're like, no, it's called cooperative education where you could do it. I'm looking like, yeah, they's like, yeah, you can do it. But for football players, you guys only doing one. Once they told me that, and then, obviously, with everything else, I'm doing my pros and cons with the athletic program, the football team, trying to see who's in front of me, how many juniors and seniors they got. And I'm comparing other schools. I'm like, oh, no, I'm coming here. I said, I'm coming here.
That's good.
So that's how that's how that happened.
That's good. That's good. So what was your time like in school? And what was the transition for you? Was it much of a difficult transition moving on to be a student athlete in college? Go ahead.
Not that, Coach, you did ask me a question about high school, my career. So I have to bring this up only because this is when my recruiting went from probably B to A. My second game of my senior year. I just mentioned Sean Seabrooks. He went to Tennessee, then transferred to Sean was one of the top defensive backs, top athletes in the country at the time. Sean got hurt preseason. Sean got hurt preseason. So Sean missed the first 2 games of the season. He got hurt during one of the scrimmages. I remember the first game we played Bloomfield, he was out. Second game we played Montclair. The week before we played Montclair, David Tyree, I still had the article. My parents still had the article on. David Tyree hit St. Joe's up. St. Joe's with Cooper Rico and them guys. He hit St. Joe's for like 10 catches, 199 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So the next week we had to play Montclair. Obviously, me and Sean was the DBs. Sean's out. Coach D said, yo, you're shadowing David Tyree this week. So obviously, took on the challenge. I held David Tyree to 2 catches for 7 yards.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 catches, 70 yards. From there, that day, we played them on a Saturday afternoon. Monday morning, from Michigan State, Ohio State, I probably had 5 Big Ten schools come see me that whole next week. And that's when my recruiting started to go. So basically, and it's funny because I haven't seen Dave in a while, but when I do see him, we played against each other in all-star games. And him and I, we always bring it up. So I used to tell him, yo, thanks for giving me a free education, bro.
Wow.
Yeah, so saying that it wasn't because I was still getting recruited at the time, but it took off after that game. It took off after that game. Like I said, I still had an article from that day. So to answer that question, that was probably, although we didn't win the game, that was probably one of my football highlights my high school football highlights.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. That's good. And so those that don't know, I know the name again, but David Tyree had the big catch.
The most memorable catch ever in the Super Bowl. No one can. And trust me, I don't think there'll never be another. No, I can't say never. Up until this day, there's no known better catch than the David Tyree catch. And probably the next one is one of his old teammates in Mario Manahan, and they beat the Patriots again. So, but that was the best because they don't make that catch, they don't win the game.
That's right.
You know, the
That's
man.
good. That's good, man. That's good from that end. And so I think I was going into just time at college. Like, what was the transition like for you? Moving on, as a student athlete into college, and did you have any issues transitioning?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Man, I'll tell this story. My freshman year, well, I guess we was in training camp. Man, I was so homesick. And it's funny because it wasn't like I was someone that didn't travel. You know, my family, we travel. My family's from the South, so we used to go down the South in the summertime. We'd go here on trips, that and third. So, I was very fortunate to, to have a couple opportunities to go different places. But now I'm actually living on my own.
Uh,
I've been to basketball trips, football trips, and camps, being on my own things, but now I'm actually on my own. And then it was one of them things where like, wow, okay, it hit me, and it's funny because I had some type of comfort because my freshman year I was in school with Queasy. Queasy and I was in school together. After Queasy transferred from Boston University, he went to Northeast University. So it wasn't like I didn't have people that I was familiar with or my surroundings, But it was just one of them things where I was on my own, and I'll never forget and obviously we played football because you play football. I actually had to come on campus early, so
okay.
campus early, and at the time Northeastern was a quarter school. They didn't have semesters; they had quarters. So because they had quarters, we started late. So most colleges, universities, they start in August. We didn't start till probably like the third week of September. So I'm on campus for football camp like July, end of July, beginning of August, So mind you, we was on campus. They had a couple of days then camp, and then actually we left to go to Winchendon, Massachusetts for camp. So we didn't actually stay on campus. We was there for like mini camp for probably like the first 3 or 4 days. And then the
Mhm.
veterans came in for a day or two, did the testing, and then we actually went away. Unfortunately, my roommate, I don't even want to put his name out there, but more, I'll hit you up later. Nah, he ended up, I guess the first 3 or 4 days was too much for him. So he
Uh-huh.
ended up saying, I can't do this. And he ended up leaving. So mind you, we go to camp now. We left. I got this whole big room by myself. I'm here there. I mean, I'm listening I'm trying to listen to, I'm here to listen to R&B music. I'm listening to all type of stuff, man. I was so homesick. I had a phone card that my mom's had gave me where the actual number I use the house number. That that's
Uh-huh.
we had beepers, but we didn't have cell phones. So
All right.
we had pagers, things like but so I had so each floor we had like a payphone, whatever. So I actually had a phone card where I used the card and it connects to the home line back here,
Uh-huh.
back in Patterson. Man, we had camp for 17 days. I'll never forget it. I came back. My mom was like, "Do you know the phone bill was $812?" I said, $812?
Wow.
What? She was like, "You been calling back home, using the car, calling back home, using the car." I said, man, I was like, she wasn't really tripping though. I was like, it was one of the things. I was like, well, y'all ain't paying for school. You know what
All
I mean? I said, I'm saving y'all $56,000 a year. So, but it was one thing. I was so homesick, man. Yo, big. I was actually calling people, and then certain people be like, "Yo, I ran to such and such from school." I'm like, "For real, you got his number? Give me his number." People I ain't never talked to. People I ain't talked to for
Wow.
a year. I just wanted to hear somebody's voice from back home, you know what I mean? To just try to get me settled. Because at that time, all I was doing was playing football. Granted, I get back to the room, I ain't got nobody to, to build with and talk to, this, that, and the third. Obviously, I had other freshmen, but they not in the room. They in other rooms or they in the lounge area, this, that, and the third. We over there chilling with the upperclassmen seniors and that, and third. So that first 15, 16 days of training camp, I mean, other than being on the field, that was my sanctuary. But we got back in the room, man, I was a living wreck. But then I ain't gonna lie, when we got back on campus, I got adjusted. We'll leave it at
That's
that.
good. That's good.
I got
That's
back on
good.
campus, it was all right.
So, at what point at Northeastern did you recognize you had an opportunity to play on another level? And then just tell us a little bit
Good
about
question. Good question.
what that transition was like, and then those years that you were able to play professionally, what that experience was like.
Great question, because everything's it's feel like because everything's so surreal because if you ask a kid now, of, well, this generation is a little different. You know, even when we were young, we were like, oh, I want to be a professional football player, professional basketball player. But when you actually have that moment and you see it and like you actually probably could touch it a little bit, you like, it's one of them things where, oh man, this thing is really happening. So I never forget the same way I got that phone call in '97 when my brother called when I was telling him about basketball camp, and I realized like, you know what, I may have to, turn another channel. It was actually my junior year. I had a great year. Obviously, that's when I became All-American. So during like the time I was leading the country in picks. I think I ended up second behind Rasheed Mathis from Bethune-Cookman that went on to play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that year. And first scout that came to see me, this is during the season, was from Baltimore. Scout, I won't call his name, came to see me from the Ravens. Came to practice. I was outside. One of my Coach Brown, said, "Oh, coach," he's like, introduces that and third. Spoke to me. Obviously, he wanted to look at my physical build, attributes, things, and he was just talking to me to get to know me. And that's when I realized when that recruit came to actually speak to me, and he was like, basically, he came to see me. Out of everyone was there, like, he came to see me. That was the day when I said, you know what? Let me put my energy in, because to this day, my rookie year, I made the all rookie team. I was the rookie of the year. My sophomore year, I had a good sophomore year. I led the team in tackles. But at this time, it still ain't alarming. Like I'm thinking, playing in it's a dream. They want people say it's a dream come true. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go hard. If it happens, it happens. But in the back of your mind, you still like, man, certain stuff just don't happen to certain people. Like, not saying I'm one of them people that's not, low self-centered, things of that nature, by no means. But like I said, it was never in the realms where I can touch it. When he came to see me and had that conversation, that's when I realized, like, you know what? Let me start putting some eggs in this basket, and let me start to go hard and focus on this. And then that's when he came, when that scout came to see me, and then obviously that's when it started trickling down where other scouts came to see me. And then after my junior year, once I realized, that's when the rankings and stuff came out. Going into the next year, me and I think his name was Sholigan from Hofstra. We was the top two safeties in the country at the time. So once going into our senior year, we was pretty much on every magazine. Like it was, and that's when, accolades. I'm doing interviews, things of that nature. And that's when I said, you know what, okay, I'm gonna do something with this. So it was my junior, and that's when I said, I'm gonna take advantage of this opportunity, because now I said people start to see certain things in me. My coach is starting to see certain things, and these people that don't even know me from a can of paint, they just see me what I could do on the football field. They come and talk to me, get to know me. I'm gonna, I'm gonna try to ride this thing out, and that's how it happened.
That's good. So you go on to play how many years professionally again?
12.
12 years professionally. What was that experience like professionally for you?
Man, it was, like I said, it was surreal. 02, got the call from my agent with the Kansas City. That's why I'm chief fan. With the 02 with the Kansas City. I was down there for mini camp, then camp, and then 03 came, where I was at the time, John Mara, Chris Mara, of the late Melissa Mara, the owner of the Giants. They had an arena team in Jersey. They used to be called the Jersey Gladiators. And then I was back and forth between the Giants and there. And at that time, they also had NFL Europe as well. Mm-hmm. So I remember when the Giants called me in 03, I worked out from them. And I actually worked out for them. And then Chris and my agent, Mark Lepsider, was the same agent as Tiki Barber, Lawrence Taylor, and them guys. He actually had a proposal for me where it's saying, we got an opportunity where, almost at the time, it was almost like a bubble, because they say call them bubble players, because either you make the roster, you don't, like, it's one of them people, you're in between. So instead of going to NFL Europe, I decided to sign with their arena team. So happened that year, the arena team moved to Las Vegas. The same year I signed, they moved to Las Vegas, but it was still pretty much like under the feeder of the Giants, So went there for my rookie year, then came back. Then the Giants I came back the next year, they PR'd me. And then after that, that next year I came back. I think that's when I tore my ACL. Played a couple more years. In my last 8 years, I spent in the CFL in Canada. 2 years in Montreal, 5 at Edmonton, and then I retired out.
That's good. That's good, man. Just to see the awesome work you are able to do. Again, somebody is I think it's just awesome that the spotlight the fact that your goal was to get an education.
Yeah,
And
facts.
you move on to be able to play, a successful 12 years professionally, and now be able to come full circle and be back to the school that you played at in high school, impacting lives as an athletic director. What has that been like for you?
Man, like I said, I mean, it's a calling, man. This, the Most High had a plan for me. And like I said, earlier today, during the interview earlier, I was telling you, I was just passing the torch. You was able to play for Coach Davis, the Barry
Yeah.
Wassels, I had the same type of guidance. So
Right.
I feel like I'll be a less of a person if I don't do for the people that's behind me now that the people that was before me done for me.
That's
So
good.
it's funny because my last 3 years of playing professionally, I was actually getting my master's. In
Okay.
2011, I came back in the off season. I used to come back home in the off season. So I came back home in the off season. I started enrolled at NJCU, and I actually had Dr. Anasana who's my academic advisor, who was also the dean of the school and department that I was studying. She was always giving me, she knew my situation. She knew I played professional football, and she knew when I would be here and when I would be in town and when I would not be in town. So she would actually uh, coordinate my schedule based off of my availability. So when I came back in the off season, like in the spring, I'll probably try to double up on certain classes. And then during the season, Biggs, I was actually taking an online course. So she
Wow.
would say, listen, we're gonna offer this course in the fall. So do not take this course in the spring or the summer. We're gonna make sure you take this in the fall because these are the times you're not gonna be there. So I did that for 3 years, and I came back, and it's funny. The year I graduated was the last year that I actually played. So
Wow.
it was like I said, it was a call to me. It was a blessing because the same year I was done playing professionally, I was able to turn over my post career to into a new career. I was done with
That's
my
good.
career and into a new career. So like I said, it's been a blessing, man, because everyone have a story, and we all has our ups and our downs, you know what I mean? And for me, I always look at the glass half full because it's I was blessed with so many opportunities and so many experiences. So, like I said, I'll be less of a person if I don't do what I need to do to try to help these young ones and to benefit their lives to even not even similar to mine, better than mine, surpass mine. So
Right. That's good, man. That's good, man. Just appreciate you, man. Just sharing your journey with us, man. And so I have two questions I always ask at the end of the show. But right before I ask that, I just want to ask you this. For the young person watching, what's some advice you give them to just really just focus on life and being a whole person, beyond the game? Like what would be the advice you give a person just in making sure they're taking care of every part of life. So even outside of the sport that they're playing, they're walking in greatness.
I would say it sounds redundant because I say this all the time. You have to have a strong support system. And that support system don't have to be your immediate family. Don't have to be your mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, your tia, your brother, your tío. It don't have to be someone within. It could be structured around a group of people that you and I were structured around. That we actually, the names that I mentioned, like the coaches, the mentors, the teachers, the teammates. Because
Right.
I'm a strong believer in if you surround yourself around positive individuals or individuals that has like-minded, and do things that you're doing or better. I always say surround yourself around people that's better. And I'm not gonna say better. I don't want to say better because what do you consider better? Surround yourself around people that can motivate you to get to a higher level of your course, not their course, your course. And when you do that, trust me, it's going to motivate you because you're going to do. It's going to inspire. I'm saying it's going to inspire you tremendously, because you're going to start seeing things that they're doing, and it's going to be a reflection of you. So with that being that reflection, it's going to become instilled in you. Same thing, you know, that our parents and stuff, that the morals and values that they try to teach us. If you surround yourself around that, that's all you're going to know. And people do what they know. They come accustomed to their environment. That's why a lot of things happen, because a lot of our students, a lot of our young, they're accustomed to certain things that surround them. So because you're accustomed to it, and that's all you know, and that's all you see, and that's all you're a part of, you may do that, whether it's left or right, whether it's right or wrong. So if you surround yourself around certain people in a certain group, and so put yourself in a certain mind frame, it's going to be embedded in you, you know? So that's what I tell people: surround yourself around a good support group. So 90% of your decisions is more up instead of down. You know?
That's good. That's good, man. And so anybody that watched the show know we're going to scratch the first of those last two questions, because TJ just covered it. Because the next question we go into as we end the show is always, how important is it to have positive people in your circle? You just touched on that. So I think you knocked that question out the box, man. I think gave us some great information on the effects that positive people in your circle and having that good support group covers, man. So I appreciate that answer on that question. So we go into the last question. Who or what is it that inspires you in life most?
My brother. I would say my brother. I was able to learn from him, good, bad, and indifferent. You know, not so much mistakes, but you know, it's one of them things where, you know, smart people learn from their own mistakes, but wise people learn from mistakes of others. So, and there don't have to be mistakes. And my brother was a hell of a football player. At that time, I mean, I would say he had a better high school career than me. You know, I was, what I did in college. And he had a great college career too. But what I done in college, probably exceeded, in all the accolades that I had. But he had a hell of a college career. He was all conference, all ECAC things of that nature. But my college career helped me exceed to where based off of where I end up at. But as far as high school, and what's crazy is he broke his wrist the first game of his senior year versus Bergen Catholic. I never forget that when I was watching the game. But I say that because he pretty much was like the pipeline for everything I done from my basketball, from baseball to football, playing for our uncle teams. And obviously, my dad had a lot to do with that because he set us up to, he put his ducks in a row, and after when he did his job, we had to find our own way, So I would say I had plenty positive role models, plenty of people that mentor me to this day. Like I told you, like the Benji Wimberleys of the world, I talked to Barry Rosses, there's so many people. But as far as impactful from day one, I would say my brother, although, we're 9 years apart, I was able to see how he groomed his way. And then I had my way, and I just created my own brand on how I done it, But had I not saw that, and had I not been a part of that, and had I not analyzed and experienced that, then it would just been my way. But my way would have been could have been a lot of wrongs because I didn't know. By seeing him, I had some type of direction of yes, no, left, right, up, down, So same way what you have with your big brother. You have that guidance, like, okay, yes. I'm probably not going to do this because that ain't working. Although I might be different, but I may not, so.
Right. That's good, man. Well, we appreciate you for joining us, the awesome experience, the journey in your life, and being an example, man. I'm not back home in Patterson, man, but just being able to see brothers like yourself and Magazine, man, just be a blessing and an example to our young people coming up, man. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us and provide such great information on the platform, man. And so thank you, man. I wish you the best. I'm gonna find a way to get my gift bag, man. But hey,
we'll get it to you. We'll definitely
definitely appreciate you, man. So thanks again for joining us, man.
Nah, most out. Thanks for having me, man. You stay up, man. Appreciate you.
I know I say it every show. It is good to be great in the sport that you're playing, but it's even better to be great in life. So I challenge you to continue joining us. Take the information, make sure you're intentional in applying it, and continue joining us as we continue to go out and up. Thank you, and we'll see you next episode.